everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I thought I'd be a little more intimate. I'm filming in my bedroom right now because I wanted to really talk about the title of this video, which is why self-care is so important. Before we get started, please be sure to subscribe. I would greatly appreciate you, and be sure to ring the bell to be notified of future videos. And let's go ahead and get started. The main reason why I wanted to make this video was mainly to not only talk about my experiences on why self-care is so important, but also just give anyone who's watching that struggles with understanding what self-care is and when you feel like you need it in your life. That's also the point of this. Since I was about 13, I really struggled with anxiety, and I also struggled with depression as well. Now, it wasn't until I was about 18 that I said, you know what, I want to start going to a therapist. I want to start seeking a psychiatrist to try and get on some meds that I feel like will help me. My anxiety is every single day, and still to this day, it is factored with my overthinking mind. My mind never turns off. It's also a feeling I get in my chest. My chest feels very tight. When I have really bad anxiety, I've had panic attacks, I've had anxiety attacks, just crying just because you feel like you're so overwhelmed chest wise, and in my head, that's what I would do. In 18, I started looking for a psychiatrist, like I said, looking for therapists, and I was put on like a slew of different medications, and I really felt like none of them really worked for me. And I also went through a slew of therapists, because therapists, you also have to find one that you feel like you mesh well. All therapists are different. There's some therapists that are harsher than others. There's some therapists that really take your word for things, don't beat you up. But there's some therapists that like the tough love aspect. So you really have to go searching for what you feel like you need out of someone. I still to this day see a therapist. If you haven't seen my previous videos about my miscarriages and my fertility testing, I will link those below. They also did not help my anxiety nor my depression. When me and Sean broke up 2 years ago, I was having a really rough time with the breakup. He was in his addiction, and I really didn't know how to cope with things that were happening while we were broken up, because I was still very much in love with him. And when I saw my therapist, she said, you know what, I think that you should do like an outpatient program at Rockford. We have a mental health hospital here in Delaware. And I did it. It was a 2-week program, 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. And I told my job, look, I really need to do this. This was after my first miscarriage. And those 2 weeks were very uplifting for me. It gave me a lot of material, a lot of tools on how to cope with stress, how to cope with anger, how to cope with all these different things. You had to share certain things about yourself. It led me to my best guy friend, George, who it also led me to his, wife and his stepdaughter, and just a group of people that I love being around and love contacting. But that program really helped me understand why self-care is important. My therapist that I still see now, I see a therapist every 2 weeks, and I've been seeing her for about 1.5 years. Me and Sean saw her as a couples therapist about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, but she's someone I stick with, and she was trying to kind of introduce me to self-care. I just had so much going on. My aunt, who was my favorite person in the whole world, passed away 2017 on Christmas Eve. So I had that. And then 2018, me and Sean broke up, and I had the miscarriage. So I really was going through a lot personally, and being in that program really opened my eyes further to self-care. Why do you need to do self-care? Since I was younger, I've always had a very maternal instinct. With my sister growing up, I always felt the need to take care of her in a sense, even when she didn't need to be taken care of. And as I grew up, I started doing that with friends that I would make. I started doing that with people that I would start caring about in my life, and started to feel like it was a complete need of mine to help them in any way, shape, or form, and not think about myself. So if they needed something, if there was something I could do, no matter what it was, no matter how much it would strain me or stress me or whatever, I need to do what I can for this person and not worry about myself. Like, why am I important? Like, hello, my job is to help other people. And that's how my brain was wired. I still struggle to this day. When I feel like I'm being worn too thin, I struggle to this day to tell myself, you know what? Relax, let it go. Like, you don't need to be on top of every single little thing, but it's something I'm working on. And when you put others before yourself for so many years, your mental health starts being put on the back burner. And it almost starts becoming where you get to a point of no return, actually, because you're neglecting yourself. You're neglecting how you feel to put others before yourself. You're going through all this trauma, you're going through all this pain and grief, but you still piece yourself together to help somebody else and give off an impression that you're fine, and you're not fine. It was in 2018, after I actually had did the program at Rockford, a situation happened with me and Sean. Again, we were still broken up, and I'm not going to go into detail on exactly what the situation was, but it got me so emotional to a point where I almost harmed myself. At the time, I was staying with a friend until I made enough money to get to the apartment that I'm in now. He wasn't home at the time, and I was so emotional. I was crying, and I actually called my guy friend George, and he was on the phone. I was bawling my eyes out, and I actually grabbed a blade that I had in my purse, and it was just a blade that, like, for protection. Like, I didn't buy it like with the intention of possibly harming myself. I grabbed it, and I actually got to a point where I held it to my wrist, ready to cut myself. And that's a point that I never thought I would get to, ever. I never thought that I would harm myself, because I almost honestly didn't really understand why people did that until you're in that situation. Me being so stuck in my head, me being in so much pain, so much grief, everything just kind of bottled up into one. And I said, you know what, maybe if I do this, maybe it'll take my mind off of what's going on in my head, because I can't turn my thoughts off. I feel like I'm so alone. I don't have a place of my own. I don't have a person that I love in my life anymore that's a clean person. I just felt very alone, even though technically I was not alone. I had plenty of people to reach out to, but in that moment, when your mind is overtaking every single piece of you, you want to do that to release, to break this cycle of thoughts. I want to feel something other than this pain that I'm feeling inside and the way my head is spinning right now. And I didn't do it. And I think if I hadn't have called my friend, I most likely would have done it, because he was just talking me through it. No, you have support. I understand. He actually went as far to call a suicide prevention number that actually came to where I was staying and evaluated me to make sure that I was okay. And my friend actually came over. It was a very dark point in my life. It was also a combination of caring about somebody and their addiction. When I met Sean in 2014, he was not in his addiction. I didn't know he was an addict. And it wasn't until like halfway through 2014, we were together like 5 months, that he started using, and I had no clue. I was oblivious to everything. And it was a whirlwind because I had never dealt with somebody through addiction. So having your own anxiety and depression and then getting into a relationship where your partner's an addict, it's very, 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 very draining, and it's very heavy on every part of you. And when we broke up, it was every day wondering, oh my gosh, I hope he's okay. I hope that, God forbid he doesn't overdose, or, I hope he's okay. I hope, nothing happened to him. And when you break up with somebody, you shouldn't be like, oh, I hope, my boyfriend doesn't die. You just don't picture that when you're thinking about being in a relationship or breaking up with somebody. You don't think about these other variables again until they happen. And I think 2018 was a very rough year for me. And even 2019, with my other 2 miscarriages, I'm still a work in progress. Self-care is important because without it, you will fall through the cracks. Your mind will fall through the cracks, and you will not be able to come back from that. It has taken me years to actually understand what self-care is. When I was in that program, they gave me like a list. This can even be Googled. Self-care, things to do for self-care. And I was given like a list of like 100 things that I could do for self-care. And it's stuff as simple as taking a hot bath. It's as simple as painting your nails, journaling. Journaling is something that I picked back up again, and it works. When you are so pissed off at somebody and you don't have anybody to vent to, but also you may not want to vent to this person because you'll seem petty or whatever it is, that piece of paper can't talk. That piece of paper doesn't have a mind. That piece of paper can't read what you're about to write and talk back to you. So you can be as unfiltered as you want on that piece of paper. Tell that piece of paper what you really think of this person or what you really think about what just happened, and that piece of paper will say nothing, and you will be completely unjudged in what you say. And it works to the point of like, this fucking bitch, how fucking dare she, like, and just writing it, because you shouldn't worry about if you're legible. You shouldn't worry about how fast you're writing. Write as though you're talking. And if you write it out, just getting your emotion out, by the time you're done that journal entry, you will feel so much better. And it's things that seem corny, right? When, I read that list, and even my therapist, every session at the end, even to this day, she says, what things you're going to do for self-care these couple weeks. And I thought taking a bath is corny. Like, why is that self-care? You're just bathing yourself. Like, how is that self-care? But when you do it and you've had a stressful day and you just let your bones soak in the water and just try and relax, and then you're done and you get out and go about your day, you feel so much better. It's taking that time for yourself to get your mind back on track. Self-care for some people is exercising. That's another form of self-care. Doing something with yourself, an activity with yourself to really check and see where you are and how you feel. And it's nothing that you should feel ashamed of. It's nothing that you should feel is corny. Some people are able to just talk to a friend and they're good. They're cool. They don't have, any problems, and that's great. But other people who've had traumatic experiences, painful experiences with grief, you feel like you need support. And self-care is involved with support. In order to take care of yourself, you need to seek help if you need it. If you feel like you need to go to a therapist to get an unbiased opinion, a medical opinion, an expert opinion about what you're going through, why not do it? Don't ever feel embarrassed that you need help. I wish mental health would be more spotlighted than it is, but there's nothing wrong with feeling like you need help. And I am not ashamed at all to tell anybody that I go to a therapist twice a month, or that I have been seeing a psychiatrist to get on the proper medications. I still have my moments. My depression gets so bad sometimes where I just want to sleep all day long. I want to do nothing. I want to do absolutely nothing. I just want to sleep. I don't want to take a shower. I don't want to eat. I just want to sleep. And it's taken me a long time to get better. I'm not perfect. I still have a very long way to go, but it took from 18 to 28 to really understand how important self-care is. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to struggle. And it's not a good place. And I can tell you that from experience, self-care is what got me to this point, that I feel like I'm getting a little more positive with things, that I'm getting a drive again, that I'm getting more of a positive outlook on things. And I'm not just giving people advice and not following it, that I'm actually taking the necessary steps that I need to. If you're embarrassed by any means, there's always somebody to reach out to. There are so many groups, even if you can't afford to pay for a therapist, there's so many groups out there that are free. There is groups for grief, there's groups for anxiety and depression, there's an Al-Anon for loved ones of addicts. There's so many free groups out there that are so helpful and resourceful that you should take advantage of that if you're struggling with something like that. That's why self-care is important. You don't want to be in a position that I was. You never want to feel like you're worth less than you actually are. And the only way to really recognize that is to work on your own mental health. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Again, please be sure to subscribe. Hit the thumbs up, comment down below, let me know if you have a similar situation going on. Let's have a conversation about it. It's important. If you are feeling any sort of way about your mental health, it is important to start a conversation about it. I want to show love to those that are struggling, and if I can help one person with this story or with these tips, then I 100% feel good about this, about doing this kind of video. But that's all I have for this video. Sorry for it being so Debbie Downer, but I thought it was something important to talk about. But I will be back on Wednesday with a video from a new series that I'm doing, Losing My Makeup Virginity, and then I'll be doing makeup with a brand that I have not done makeup with, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I am here Wednesdays and Sundays, 12 p.m. EST, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.